Imagine being stuck in traffic. You look over at the car in the next lane. There is some random person there, maybe tapping their fingers on the steering wheel, totally lost in their own little world. For a split second it hits you. That person has a whole life. They have a childhood full of memories, a list of secret fears, and an argument they've been playing over and over in their head all week. They have a favorite song and people they love more than anything. They have a story that is every bit as long and complicated as your own, but you'll just drive away and never know a single thing about it. This feeling is called Sonder. It is that moment where you realize every single person around you is living a life that is just as full and real as yours. It sounds obvious when you say it out loud, but actually feeling it is something else entirely. Usually, it hits in crowded spots, like busy train stations or airports. Your brain tries to wrap itself around the fact that every face you see is a whole human being, and then your mind just kind of gives up because the scale of it is just too much to handle. It is one of those feelings that is hard to label as good or bad. It is just big. Now, have you ever felt a deep ache for a place you can never go back to? You probably know what nostalgia feels like, that warm, slightly sad pull toward the past. But there is another version of it that goes a step further. It is when you aren't just missing a specific time, you are missing a place, or a feeling, or a version of your life that doesn't exist anymore. The hard part is that even if the place still exists, the thing you are actually missing is gone. You can go back, but it won't be the same. In Welsh, they call this Hiraeth. It is a longing for home, but for a home you can't return to, or maybe one that never quite existed the way you remember it. Welsh speakers will tell you it really doesn't translate into English, not because they're being dramatic, but because we don't have a word for it. People feel it for their childhood neighborhood after it changes, for the early days of a relationship, or for a summer that felt like it would last forever. There is a grief to it. Even though technically nothing bad happened, things just moved on, and somewhere in that gap, Hiraeth lives. Let's talk about that feeling when you start liking someone and your brain basically stops working. You've maybe had 2 real conversations with this person, but you have already thought about them an embarrassing number of times. You check your phone more than you want to admit. When they do message, there is this little rush that doesn't make sense given how little you actually know them. That is not just a crush. A psychologist named Dorothy Tenov studied this in the 1970s and gave it a name: limerence. What makes it different from just liking someone is how involuntary it is. You aren't choosing to think about them constantly. Your brain is just doing it on a loop, and it doesn't stop until it gets the information it is looking for. See, the real thing limerence is after is reciprocation. It is not just about the person, it is about whether they feel it too. Every small thing they do gets read into. A fast reply means something. A slow one means something else. The moment the uncertainty disappears, either they like you back or they don't, the feeling tends to fade pretty quickly, which tells you a lot about what it actually was. Finally, there is a word for that specifically unsettling feeling you get when you are in a place built for people, but the people are all gone. Kenopsia. Think about a school during summer break, or an office on a quiet Sunday evening. Picture a stadium an hour after the game has ended. There are still cups on the floor and the lights are still on, but the crowd is gone. These places were built for people. Every chair and sign assumes someone should be there. When they aren't, It feels off in a way that's hard to explain. That's Kenopsia, the eerie feeling you get in an abandoned place that used to be full of life. It's different from just being in an empty room because you can actually feel the absence. If you didn't know the place was supposed to be full, it would just be a room. But because you know what it's meant to be, the emptiness has a certain texture. People get the same feeling from old social media profiles that haven't been touched in years, or home videos of people who have died. The structure is still there, but the person isn't. And that gap creates something truly strange. Ever wonder why a storm outside makes you feel so good inside? There's a reason so many people say they love rainy days, and it's more specific than just liking the look of rain. When it's properly pouring outside, loud enough to hear and bad enough that going out would be miserable, something shifts. If you're inside, warm and cozy with nowhere to be, the outside world and its demands become physically unreachable. In that, there's a kind of permission. Permission to stay put, to not deal with anything, and to just exist where you are. This is chrysalism, named after the cocoon a butterfly lives in before it emerges. It's that specific feeling of being sealed off from the world in a way that feels safe rather than trapped. The secret is the contrast. The noise of the storm outside is actually what makes the warmth inside feel so good. Your brain registers the difference and finally relaxes. It's why some people will crack a window just to hear the rain better. Have you ever walked into a used bookstore and felt like the walls were talking to you? Used bookshops have an atmosphere that's hard to put your finger on. It's not just the smell of old paper, though that's part of it. It's something about the objects themselves. Every book on those shelves has already had a life before it ended up here. Someone bought it, maybe read it cover to cover, left a receipt inside as a bookmark, or underlined something that meant something to them at the time. Then, for whatever reason, it was let go, and now it's here, waiting for someone new. Vellichor is the word for that feeling. The quiet, slightly sad atmosphere of used bookshops and secondhand stores. These are places full of objects that used to belong to someone's life and now don't. There's a melancholy to it, but it's not heavy. It's more like a soft reminder that time passes. Things change hands, and the world is full of small histories you could spend a lifetime discovering. Have you ever been in a room full of friends but still felt like a total stranger? Imagine you're at a party or a work event where everyone seems comfortable and the conversation is flowing. You're fine. You're talking to people and you're smiling. Nothing is technically wrong, but there's this low-level, constant feeling that you're slightly off. You don't feel unwelcome. It's more like you're a puzzle piece that doesn't quite fit the picture it's been placed in. Monachopsis is the word for that subtle, persistent feeling of being out of place. What makes it different from just being shy is that it doesn't really go away once you relax or warm up. Even when you're fully part of the group, that tiny sense of being an outsider remains in the back of your mind as you navigate the room. It feels more like your internal frequency doesn't quite match the room. And no matter how much you try to adjust, you can't seem to close the gap. People who feel this often have the same quiet thought underneath it all, that somewhere out there, there's a room they could walk into where everything would just work. A place where fitting in would be effortless, and they'd finally stop noticing that distance. Most of us spend a huge part of our lives looking for that one room. Mauerbauer Traurigkeit. This one comes from German, which shouldn't surprise anyone given how long the word is and how precisely it describes a feeling. Imagine a friend or a family member reaches out to you. They genuinely want to spend time with you and haven't done anything wrong. But something inside you just shuts down. You make an excuse, say you're busy, and put it off. Then you sit alone, which is what you chose, but it doesn't actually feel good. Mauerbauer Traurigkeit is basically the wall builder's sadness. It's that urge to push people away even when you don't really want to be alone. What makes it different from just needing some me time is that it feels involuntary. It's more like a reflex than a decision. Then there's the specific loneliness that follows, the kind that's hard to complain about because you're the one who built the wall in the first place. It's a strange cycle to be stuck in, isn't it? Anemoia. You might find a book of old photos or see footage of a city street from the 1970s. Maybe you're watching an old home video with those faded, washed-out colors and that slightly off aspect ratio. Suddenly, you feel a pull toward it, a longing for that time, that look, and that slower pace of life. This doesn't make much logical sense because you weren't there and have no memories of it. There's no real reason to miss something you never had, yet the feeling is real and very common. This is anemoia, or nostalgia for a time you never knew. Before we move on, if you're finding these descriptions as relatable as I am, hit subscribe and tap the bell so you don't miss the next part of this journey. We have a lot more to cover. The reason anemoia happens is pretty simple. Old media only shows the good stuff. The photos people kept were the nice ones. The footage that survives is usually of celebrations or ordinary days that someone thought were worth recording. You aren't seeing what it was actually like to live through the hard parts of that time. You're seeing a highlight reel filtered through a look that now feels warm and familiar. You're likely longing for simplicity, and the past is just the easiest place to project that onto. It makes you wonder what else we're missing just by being born when we were. Occhiolism. Sometimes, usually when you're tired or staring at the sky too long, you get a sudden sense of how small you really are. There are 8 billion people on this planet right now, all doing something. The universe is so massive that the numbers eventually stop meaning anything. You are one person in one place in one tiny window of time in a history that goes back billions of years. And yet, somehow, that embarrassing thing you said at work last Thursday is taking up most of your brain right now. That feeling is called Occhiolism, the awareness of how small your experience is compared to the actual scale of everything. Some people find it freeing, like the pressure is off because nothing matters that much in the big picture. Others find it unsettling, like the floor briefly disappeared. Most people feel a bit of both depending on the day. Either way, it tends to show up uninvited and leave on its own schedule. Onism. You are only going to live one life, one timeline, and one body. You get one sequence of days, and at some point, that reality becomes very real to you. Every choice you make is also a choice not to make 100 others. The town you live in is just one spot you chose over 100 others. Every road you walk down means turning your back on countless other trails. The life you are building right now is created by trading away every other future you could have had. Onism is the frustration of being trapped in a single body and a single story. It is the nagging feeling that you are missing out just by being here, living this one reality while other options slip away. You might feel it when you read about a distant city you will never see, or when you watch a video about a lifestyle so different from yours that the gap feels painful. The internet has definitely made this worse. Never before has it been so easy to see proof of all the beautiful lives you are not leading. Every part of the human experience is just one tap away. It is amazing, but it is also a heavy weight to carry. No matter what path you pick, you are always aware of everything you didn't choose. If you've ever felt this, share your story. This life is yours, and it's enough.